Look, I know a lot of you Trojans fans are tired of waiting for this rebuild to finish. When Lincoln Riley first took this USC job, let's be honest, they overachieved 11 wins in year one. But when you contextualize it, you didn't play Washington, you didn't play Oregon, and you played the majority of some of the weaker teams on your schedule. But when you did play a good team in Utah, you lost to them twice, and then the meltdown against Tulane, and that kind of overinflated expectations a little bit because people forget how bad of a state USC was from what happened with Clay Helton. I mean, the dude under recruited so badly where you finished with like the 7 rated recruiting class. So Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams kind of inflated the stock of USC football. This was always going to be like a 3-4 year rebuild. Well, now Lincoln Riley has assembled one of the best defensive staffs in America. You have one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. You've bulked up the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I really feel like USC is not that far away from being in contention for the college football playoffs, especially when you look at all of their losses last year. 5 out of 6 of them came due to one possession losses, like Michigan, Maryland, which disgusted me. Like how far do you think USC is from getting into playoff contention?
Real quick, JT, to your point, you talked about Maryland, some of those other games. A lot of those games, man, as you stated, man, they were self-inflicted wounds, man. And I really believe, like, if we would have continued to run the ball, USC would have been in a lot better shape because we were essentially controlling multiple games. And it's weird because I've never seen a team like last year that literally would lose in the fourth quarter, pretty much ahead most of the time. However, let me jump back real quick to Lincoln Riley, how you mentioned about the 3 or 4 year build. I think, and I always kind of say this on my channel, I said Lincoln Riley went into a gunfight, not with a knife, but he went into a gunfight with a straw, literally. And what I mean by that is that there were so many changing, moving pieces, such as NIL, that USC had to catch up. And when he came over from Oklahoma, I think he had a hard time adapting to that aspect of it. You got the NIL piece, you got to try to manage the team. And so he was trying to, I believe, essentially doing it all by himself, and not really having a general manager in place per se like we do now. And that's what we kind of see now. We kind of see things moving and grooving in a whole different way to where it's coming together. And yeah, he had to experience some things. And I always tell people this as it relates to Alex Grinch. If we would have never kept Alex Grinch if we would have never kept him a year longer, the time that we had him, we would have never probably had the Deanton Lynn right now. We probably would have never had Eric Henderson right now. We probably would have never had Doug Belt and all these other coaches. So I believe timing is everything. And yes, you're right. It's more like a 3 to 4 year build. This may be the year you actually start seeing some things really developing and manifesting because we kind of stacking a couple classes. No, we didn't finish in the top 5, but we did finish within the top 15 range. So I think you get ready to start seeing some things coupled with our coaching staff.
And when you look at USC last year, you're not always what your record says you are. That's what Josh Pate loves to say. And from a non-USC fan standpoint, an Oregon or Washington fan, they look at USC, they see 7-6. Oh, you're mid, you're not going nowhere. But when I look at USC as a Miami fan, I see a program that last year, if the ball would have flipped in a different direction, you easily could have been a 9-win team. And you had some good moments, like beating LSU. Yeah, LSU was overrated in the end, but that still was a win that not a lot of people gave y'all a chance. And even then, everybody was gassing up the SEC. Thank God that y'all contributed to exposing how overrated this conference was. I tuned in to that whole game against A&M. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Next thing you know, right back in it, and they win it. So it's like, USC was a way better team last year than what their record showed. Like losing to Michigan in that fashion, like when's the last time you ever seen a team have a 2-minute drill just running the football? I've never seen something psycho.
It makes no sense. None of the games made sense, bro. Like all of the games, Washington game was like that. Maryland game was like that. Minnesota game, it's like nothing about the way this team is finishing made sense. And so I think you can attribute some of that. We'll put some of that blame on Lincoln Riley because I think you got to control the clock. I think the way that we started off games, and I think at times he got a little hungry. I'm not gonna say greedy. I don't like to use the word greedy, but sometimes he likes to take it because that's his mentality as far as, you know, throwing the ball around. But sometimes you got to be disciplined enough to run the ball in order to run the clock down, and then you're able to secure that win. But I think we got gritty at times, man, and we just self-inflicted wounds. A lot of people say, oh, well, we didn't have the interior players. Well, we took them to the fourth quarter. We even took Notre Dame to the fourth quarter. So if we would have just ran the ball, Notre Dame, we put up more points than Penn State against Notre Dame than Penn State did, right? We took Penn State to overtime. So self-inflicted wounds, man, just came back to bite us. And I think a lot of people, national media-wise, they overlooked that. They fail to look at that because they don't want to look at it because it's biased, but I don't want to get into that. So I can't remember if it was Josh. One of those guys said USC is the best 6-win team they ever seen. That's a true statement. You know, one of the best teams in the country, but just couldn't learn how to finish. But I think that's the challenge this year is learning how to finish.